𝗬𝗲. Thank you for the kind introduction. Okay, before we start the sermon, as usual, let us take a moment to pay homage to the Perfect One, our Lord Buddha, by chanting the Namaskara 3 times. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I hope everyone's doing well. I hope everyone's doing well. So, and I hope since last week you've had some time to think about the things that we've discussed last week. So folks, what we have to do pretty much all the time is to think about the things that we're discussing. So what we do is every week we give you some kind of we give you ammunition, we give you a bit of motivation, we give you a bit of a push to keep you going for the next week or so. To really, because the reason why we feel like this is necessary and you feel that this is necessary is because you are living with you're not necessarily living with noble companions, or you're living with or you are living with people whose main purpose in their life is not to understand the truth, or to eradicate their mental suffering. So for most people, they believe that suffering is part of life. They think you know life is a package that has its good and good and the bad. It has the good, the bad, the ugly. They think that's how it is, and suffering, going through mental suffering, they think it's okay. They think it's quite normal. Therefore, a lot of people are okay with being under stress, and then being angry at times, and then people are okay with going through this emotional roller coaster because they think this is how life is meant to be. But thanks to Lord Buddha's doctrine, and these thanks to all the great religious leaders we've had over the years, we know that that's not the case. You don't have to go through suffering. I mean, why should you go through suffering when we clearly have solutions for these, isn't it? So this idea that a lot of people bear, the idea that no suffering, the idea that suffering is part of life. We should all go through it. We should be subjected to it. It's okay. This is a false idea. It's a bit like, let's say there's a disease out there, and we have medicine for it, but people are thinking that no, it's okay to have that disease. That's normal, and then you shouldn't take medicine for it. This is a bit like that. Like when people say no, it's okay to go through suffering. I'd say this is what I feel. I feel like, when there is medicine for this disease, for disease, people are deciding to ignore it, and then deciding, or saying that no, you shouldn't take medicine for it. Having the disease is okay. It's a bit like this. So no, so the Buddha, Jesus Christ, all these great religious leaders, they said, no, you don't have to go through this. There is a way to eradicate it. There is a permanent solution to this. There is medicine for this. Not something that gives you temporary relief. Something that will cure this, and better yet, prevent it. So so don't get into the mindset. I know you don't, but in case, because you're living with people who bears this idea, don't ever let yourself think that going through mental suffering is okay. Being under stress is okay. No, it's not. You don't have to be under stress. There are ways to prevent this. So, but the issue is, the reason why people believe this is because they can't, wherever they look, whenever they look for solutions, they don't find solutions. They find, like we discussed before, they find ways to kind of to suppress it, manage it. That's why you find anger management, stress management. There aren't any anger eradication classes, stress eradication classes, isn't it? You find anger management classes. So when you look for a solution in the world, all you find are ways to manage it, not ways to cure it. So this is why a lot of people are under the impression that, okay, managing is not, doesn't mean curing it. So that's why they think that, okay, maybe then there isn't a cure for this. But luckily for us, we know there's a cure, isn't it? So this is the benefit of this is the benefit we have, the benefit of um, getting to hear this doctrine. And the reason why we're getting a chance to reap these benefits is because of the merits that you've done, isn't it? Getting to hear the doctrine is a reaction. We know that, as Newton said, if this is a reaction, there must have been an action, isn't it? Because every action has an equal and an opposite reaction. So if you're getting to hear, so you getting to hear this doctrine, this is a reaction, isn't it? Because it's not an action that you're doing. You're hearing this. So this is a reaction. So for this, you must have done an action previously. So since this is a good reaction, you must have done some good actions in the past. So this is proof that the good actions that we've been accumulating, that they have good reactions. It might not be instant, it might take a little while, but there is a reaction nonetheless. Because for a reaction to happen, you need causes and conditions. So when performing good actions, that creates causes. And when you get into an environment where those reactions, or um, where the reactions that are that are meant to come from those actions, if you are depending on the conditions, those actions, those reactions will happen. So, for example, you've done an action. Let's say you sent a link to one of these talks to someone, to a mate, um, and then they listened to it, and now they've let's say they were making the wrong choices in their life, and then now they've kind of they've corrected the course. They've come to um, they started making better choices, and now they're on the straight and narrow. So because you've made that positive difference in their life, you are receiving what you give is what you get, isn't it? So you are meant to receive something like that. So if you give someone the doctrine, you will get a chance to hear this again. And but for that reaction to happen, you need to the conditions has to be there. Conditions have to be there. So attending this talk, this talk is the condition. Or being amongst some friends, amongst noble friends, when you're around them, they might talk about this doctrine, these ideas. So that is the condition. So that's why it's cause and you need the causes and conditions. So now the conditions are set for you to experience the reactions for those from those actions. So that is why always don't worry about because when we do something, we always worried about, okay, when am I going to get what am I going to get? When am I going to get it? Am I going to get it soon? Like, because we have that kind of mindset. Because that's the mindset that the world has. It's not your fault. So we would only start something if we can reap the benefits very quickly. So, but I mean, in your case, to be fair, you are reaping it fairly frequently because you're getting one of these talks once a week, and I know you have a singles talk once a month, and you have your own meditation program once a month as well. So you are very lucky because you're getting this in both languages, and you're getting this one of our programs. I think you have 6 programs per month. So 4 of these talks and the 2 singles programs. So if you do more merits, that might increase in the future. Who knows? So because of the good actions we've done before, the merits or ping that we've done before, you were getting to hear this fairly frequently. So don't stop doing the good deeds, good merits, because the moment you stop doing those good actions, then the reactions will stop. So, which means that if you were to stop doing the merits, maybe this might stop, or this might become less frequent. We don't know, right? So always keep in your mind that this theory, every action has an equal and an opposite reaction. So keep doing these good actions. You will experience the reactions someday. Okay, right? So yes, so the idea that people have that no, suffering is part of life. I mean mental suffering. Because physical suffering, yes, I understand it's unavoidable. Like if you get a headache, it doesn't matter um, whether you understand this doctrine or not. You could be enlightened, even an enlightened person, even the Lord Buddha himself. I think he had a recurring headache. He had a backache. He had a couple of these physical ailments. So the Buddha will feel the physical pain if he gets a headache. So physical pain isn't something that we can avoid. Physical pain is unavoidable, but mental suffering is a choice. Physical suffering is unavoidable, but mental suffering is a choice. So that's what I mean. So this doctrine will help us to to prevent mental suffering, but it can't do anything about physical suffering. For that, you have to take medicine, and that you have to take those kind of solutions. So mental suffering is really a choice. It's optional. If you can choose to go through it, or you can choose not to. So if you don't want to go through it, you have to understand this doctrine. So this doctrine, or this philosophy, these are or spiritual kind of development. Spirituality is a solution to the mind. This is medicine for the mind, not for the body. So we have to make that clear in our heads, because this will not, like, if you have a headache, understanding this doctrine will help you to not suffer mentally when you have a headache, because headache happens to the body, isn't it? Not to the mind. But when we get a disease, mentally we are down right away, isn't it? So even people in our monastery, when they go through, I think a few weeks ago, there was a bug going around, and a lot of people were affected by this, and so some people have told me that when they went through that, they were they were feeling a bit they were feeling a bit down mentally, and this is because it's something that's it's quite normal. Like when you have when you have a disease, when you are ill, when you're sick, you feel this way. You feel like you've hit rock bottom. But in reality, it's a physical ailment. Your body is ill, not you, isn't it? Your body is not you. You're a mind. Body is what's sick. So when the body is ill, it shouldn't affect the mind, because that infection or whatever, that disease cannot creep into the mind, isn't it? It can only affect the body. So this is what we have to realize. When you are ill, it can't affect the mind, because the body and the mind, they are not connected really. I mean, there's no physical connection. There might be you could say there's an invisible connection. I mean, so but for a mind to be infected by disease, there has to be a physical connection, isn't it? So if say the body is ill, so it's a bit like a cold or something like that. Like if someone has a cold, and if they're sneezing, then it's contagious. There are people around can get it, because why, germs travel, and then that, because germs travel. But in this case, right, body and the mind, they are not connected physically. I mean, there's no way that the germ can go into the mind, because mind is an invisible kind of entity, I suppose. And well, technically it's not invisible, it's all around us. Everything is the mind, but for let's start like this. So mind is something that doesn't have a physical connection with the body. So that germ cannot go into the mind. So that is the first thing that we had to realize. It's a bit like, imagine there are diseases that are contagious, that are not contagious. So if something is not contagious, if it's something that doesn't spread, like for example, a backache, it's not something that spreads, isn't it? So if, let's say let's say your other half has a backache, that's not going to come to you, isn't it? Just because they have it, that doesn't mean it's going to come to you, even no matter, because you get close to them, whatever, doesn't matter. There's no way that you get the backache. So like that, the mind and the body are like that. So when the body is ill, it can't do anything to the mind. So this is the first thing that we have to understand. So mental suffering happens because of a wrong idea. Mental suffering happens because you believe in that scenario. You suffer mental because you think that, okay, I am ill, I am sick. No, your body is sick. You're not sick, because the body is just a body. Because you've been so. You remember last week we talked about the rubber arm experiment. I don't know if you had time to go into YouTube and have a look at it. So the reason why, in that rubber arm experiment, the reason why he felt pain is because he was when the doctor smashed the rubber arm with a hammer, the guy felt pain. The subjects of that experiment, they felt pain because the doctor told them that this fake prosthetic, this rubber arm, is their body. Or it's their arm. So now, because the arm is theirs, because the arm belongs to them, now they are now when it got hit with a hammer, they think they got hit with a hammer. So like that, this body, the reason why we why we suffer mentally when we are ill is because we feel like we feel like that is me. We feel like the body is the extension of yourself, in a way. So This is not true. The body and the mind are two separate things. Okay. So we all know that. So the reason, so in that scenario, the reason why he suffered is because he thought that prosthetic arm, that fake arm, was him. Okay. So the reason why he suffered was because of a wrong idea, wasn't it? Because he was conditioned to believe that something that is not him is him. Or the reason why we suffer when we have disease is because we've been told that since we were young, we were told that this body is you. You are your body. Because we bear this idea, that's why whenever something happens to the body, that's why we suffer mentally. So we know, so the reason for mental suffering then is is because we bear a wrong idea, isn't it? Because we bear because we don't know the truth. We If you don't know the truth, you're bearing a lie, isn't it? So wrong idea is the reason why we suffer. This wrong idea is referred to as ignorance. Ignorance means a lie. Ignorance means lie. Right? So because of ignorance is the main reason for mental suffering. But with ignorance comes attachment. So the moment that you are told that this body is you, then that creates attachment. Because okay, so now okay, so this is me. If this is me, if this is if this is me, then it has to be mine. If it's your, this is your body. Okay, so now you've been told that this belongs to you or this is you. Now you're attached to it. So ignorance brings attachment. Ignorance brings attachment, and attachment is what causes suffering. So having the idea is not necessarily what brings you suffering. The idea, to be fair, if you have the idea, that will bring attachment. I mean, you can't stop it, to be fair. So the attachment, technically speaking, attachment is what brings suffering, but we don't need to get too technical. But let's say ignorance and attachment brings about mental suffering. So when we hear the term attachment, we what immediately comes to the mind is attachment to objects, things, people. So what the Buddha meant is not attachment to people or things. So in that scenario, the reason why we suffer mentally is because we think that body is us. In other words, we are attached to the body. Attachment to the body is what brought about suffering. So if you were to go a little bit deeper, what we are attached to. So think about the things that you can't live without. Okay, and it could be your spouse, it could be your pet, it could be your car, it could be your job. I don't know, it could be your phone. There might be a myriad of things. If you were to look at all of these things, these are all objects, isn't it? So what we attach to, so we think that, or most people think that what we are attached to are to objects. Attachment to objects, attachment to things, attachment to people. We think this is what brings about suffering. So technically speaking, what we attach to is not to things, not to people. What we attach to, because that wrong idea or ignorance is the idea that there's a difference in the world, that there's a uniqueness, that there are separate things in the world. This idea is what brings about attachment. So what we are attached to is that is we are attached to experiencing a difference. It comes in many names. You can call it lust, you can call it um, anger, whatever it is. It's basically a difference. That's what people want to experience, or they want to experience something that is unique, a uniqueness. This uniqueness, this urge to experience this uniqueness is what brings about suffering. This uniqueness, wanting to experience the uniqueness, is what makes us. It's what made us acquire all of these different objects, all of these different things. Because let's say you had an old phone. It's still perfectly fine. It's still functional. You can still use it to do what you need to do. But you've been using it for, let's say, I don't know, 3 years or 3 years. It's perfectly fine, perfectly functional, but you want to buy a new phone now. Why? Because there's no real reason why you need to buy a new phone when the old phone is perfectly fine. So the only reason why you want to buy a new phone is because you want to experience a difference. Difference is what you're after. That's why you want a new phone. I mean, I'm sure this has happened to us a lot. I mean, it's happened to me so many times when I was a layperson. It could be clothes. Like whenever I had to go to a party, I would go and buy a new top. I can't wear the same top um, to two parties, especially if there are people who came to the other party that I wore the top to. So if the same people are coming to this next party, then I can't wear the same top. I have to wear something new. I have to wear something that they haven't seen before. So now I go to a shop. I used to go to Primark mostly because I was a working class person. I can't afford to go to like Marks and Spencers and stuff like that, right? If for a special occasion now I go to I don't know, Marks and Spencers or something like somewhere like that. So usually I go to like Primarks and stuff like that. Um so I would go to these shops and I would buy a new top. So why? Because I could have wore the previous one, which I was completely okay to wear it, but because I want to because I want a difference, because I wanted to, in that case, it's not, I want other people to experience a difference, something else. So, this is the reason why that we upgrade. Most of the time, this is the reason we change things. It's because we want to experience a difference. But so upgrading the phone for a new one, obviously you have to pay extra sometimes. Most of the time, if you're going to buy a new phone, you have to pay extra, isn't it? So you're paying all that extra money for no reason. Okay, you want to experience the difference, but I mean, if by getting the new phone, if you're experiencing a difference, if you're getting that difference, if you're getting to experience the difference that you're after, then okay, fair enough. But let's say you get the new phone after another 2 years, then what are you looking to do again? You're looking to buy another phone, another new one. So if you experience the difference that you're after, then you would need to go for another upgrade. If difference is what you're after, then you would need to keep upgrading, once every 2-3 years, or once a year in most cases. So then upgrading once would do, but no, you have to keep on upgrading over and over and over again. So you are doing something over and over again and not getting the result that you're after. So doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. That's the definition of insanity, isn't it? I didn't give it that definition. Someone did, right? So I'm not calling those people insane. Oh, I'm not calling you insane. Well, You yourselves are calling it insane, right? So insanity, isn't it? That's why Lord Buddha said people who don't have this understanding are are insane. He said, "Sabbe putukjana ummattaka." Sabbe means all, putukjana means people who don't have this idea or who doesn't understand this. Ummattaka means insane. So that's why the Buddha said that. So people are after a difference, but they're not getting. But you can't experience the difference because it's not something that exists in the world. In the world, everything is the same. But anyway, so talking about attachment. So we are attached to this difference, or you could say we are attached to this uniqueness. So um we want to experience let's say entities, something. Again, it's a difference really. So it's so the old phone and the new phone are two completely different things. They're not the same, they're completely different. Okay. Okay, let's see. The old phone had a camera, a CPU, a screen, front camera, back camera. Okay, so the old phone had those things, those components. What do the new ones have? The new one has the same stuff, isn't it? It also has a front camera, a rear camera, a screen, a chip, a battery, etc. Okay, the battery might be better than the other one, but in terms of the content, it's the same thing, isn't it? So you want to experience a difference, but you are getting the same thing. So, and now you have the components. So old phone, new phone. Old phone is a bunch of components. New phone is also a bunch of components, and these components are exactly the same. So same components, same arrangement, really. So, okay, maybe there's a slight difference in arrangement. Maybe the new one is slightly bigger than the old one. Okay, but it's the same components. So same stuff, really. That's why, like iPhones and Porsche 911s. I mean, every year a new one comes out. It looks exactly like the old one. There aren't a clear difference. I mean, by like if you look like, I'm not having a go at iPhones. Okay, so new iPhone and the old iPhone. So this year's iPhone or this year's iPhone and last year's iPhone. They look exactly the same, isn't it? There are, I mean, there might be a minor difference, but it's more or less identical. So looks wise, they're the same, right? In terms of the content, that is also the same. The new one might be okay, slightly faster or whatever, but okay, but you didn't need that extra speed, isn't it? So you paid extra money for for something that you don't need. And the thing is, that's going to slow down that's going to slow down after a few months of couple of months of use anyway. It's going to come back down to the speed of the old phone. So really, you spend extra money for no reason. You wanted to experience a difference, but you're not getting that difference that you're after. So this is what we have to understand, folks. And if you were to go delve a little bit deeper, we get attached to the so we want to experience a difference. We want to experience a uniqueness. We want to experience um, entities. Um, but if you were to go back to the phones, you are attached to a phone, but Is there a phone in the phone? You attach to something. Okay, so you attach to you won't experience a difference. You won't experience entities, unique things. So you think phone is its own thing, it's a unique thing, but there's no such thing as a phone, isn't it? As one thing, as its own thing. It's basically a collection. It's a collection of components. Those components are the same components that you find in every phone. In other words, there's no thing as a phone. It's a bunch of components. So, okay, we give the name phone to that collection, but phone is basically, let's say the phoneness. The phoneness is the effect of the combination of all of those causes. But that effect happens in the mind. That effect doesn't happen out there. Out there, it's that collection. That's all there is. So, in other words, a phone isn't out there. The phone is in your mind. So, in other words, you are attached to something that is created in the mind. It's your imagination, really, isn't it? Phone is a mental fabrication. A phone doesn't exist in the real world. In the real world, you find some components. So the causes are there, but the effect, that is something that manifests in a mind, isn't it? Because phone, because think about it. Phone, so if you look at the causes, the battery, the cameras, the screen, etc. So let's say the case. So 5 causes. Okay, battery, the 2 cameras, case, and the screen. So when these 5 come together, we feel like, or people, or ignorant mind feels like they create a 6th thing. The phone is a 6th thing. But think about it. How can 5 things come together? When 5 things come together, how can they create something that they don't have? Do you know what I mean? How can they create? How can they give rise to something that none of them have individually? Because all there is I'm not talking about the characteristic. I'm talking about the physical thing that we, yeah. So these 5 things coming together, when these 5 things come together, what exists, what's really there are these 5 things. So when these 5 things come together, there can't magically be a 6th thing in there, isn't it? When 5 comes together, it's still 5, isn't it? When you add 5 ones, you don't get 6, do you? When you add 5 ones, you get 5. But we feel like when we add 5 ones, we get 6. That's wrong maths, isn't it? The reason why we haven't attended Nibbana is because we suck at maths, isn't it? We can't do basic arithmetics, right? That's why we haven't attended Nibbana yet. We can't add 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, isn't it? So let's all go back to kindergarten or year 1 and let's learn maths again, right? And then we'll be all right. Okay. So when those 5 things come together, it's still 5. There's no 6th thing in there, isn't it? Because the phone, it didn't come from either one of the causes, isn't it? Battery is not the phone, the cameras are on the phone, the case is in the phone, the screen is in the phone, isn't it? But their combination cannot be a phone, isn't it? So when causes come together, we feel like it's become something, it might even look like it's become something else, something unique. It feels like we feel like that result is its own thing, something completely different, but that is just the way it looks. It might look that way, but it's not really that way. When those 5 components come together, okay, and glue as well. So those 5 components plus glue that sticks all these things together, it looks like it's become one thing, but no, it's still 5. So though we name these combinations as a phone or whatever, we give it a label, that combination didn't actually become the label. They didn't become what the label suggested. So some people there are some names that it's a bit like this. It's like in some people have certain names, but they're the opposite of their names. You know what I mean? Like in Sri Lanka, there's a name called Dhanapala. Okay, Dhanapala means a rich person, rich man, or rich. Dhana means rich. Pala means, let's say, his name. It's basically a name. So Dhanapala means rich Pala, but let's say he's a beggar. So his name means he's rich, but in real life he turned out to be a beggar. So this is what's happened, right? So so what you have is a combination. What the label suggests, it hasn't become, the combination haven't transformed into what the label suggests. Those 5, 6 courses haven't transformed into a 6th or the 7th thing, the form. It's still those 5 things. So the Dhanapala has never become Dhana. He never became rich. He's still poor. So it's like this, right? So that's what labels. So the saying, it does what it says on the tin. So it doesn't. Phone doesn't have a phone, isn't it? Right? Or you could say you mix red, blue, and water. So you like red food coloring, blue, water. You mix these 3, and it looks like it created purple, but there is no purple in there. So purple is a label that we give, but it doesn't do what it says on the tin, right? It says purple, but it's not actually purple. So none of the labels that we've given, because the thing is, we can only give a label, we can only label if it actually has that. If it is like, if purple is really there, then we can call it purple. If there really is a phone, then we can call it a phone. You know what I mean? We can only give a label. I'm not saying, like, don't get me wrong. It's fine to call it a phone conventionally, because otherwise, it's going to be really difficult to talk, right? So for ease of communication, it's fine to have labels, right? But technically, if you were to think about it, you can only call it something if it is that thing, isn't it? You can't give someone the title sir or dame if they don't deserve it, isn't it? It's like, I mean, it's like that. So you can only call it a phone if it actually became a phone, but it hasn't, isn't it? The purple, you can't really call it purple because it's never become purple. It looks that way, but it isn't really purple, because red, blue, water, that combination, as long as that reaction, purple is a name that we give to that reaction, isn't it? So those 3 things are reacting. As long as the reaction happens, okay, then purpling happens. Because you can't use, because labels are nouns, but the reality is there are no nouns. There are verbs, isn't it? Because everything is a reaction, everything is a process. So you can't give it so you can't label it with a noun. You can't label it really. So it's a verb. So it's purpling. Because the moment you remove one of the causes, no more purple, isn't it? So if purple was something that was actually made, then you remove, even if you were to remove the causes, purple should exist, isn't it? So the purple is an effect. Purple is the reaction of blue and red and water. Blue, red, water, that reaction is purple. So that reaction has to constantly happen in order to generate that effect. In order for that effect in order to maintain that effect, that reaction has to happen. So purple really is an effect, isn't it? So meaning that what's happening in reaction means that it's becoming something, but it's never become something. It's always becoming, isn't it? Becoming purple, but it never becomes purple. It's like someone's studying for a degree, but when they're studying for the degree, you don't call them a graduate because they haven't graduated yet. They are becoming a graduate. They're training to be a graduate. So the world is always constantly becoming. It never becomes. Because if it becomes purple, if it were to become a phone, then nothing should go wrong. By that I mean performance shouldn't degrade, battery shouldn't degrade, it should it should remain exactly the same. But that doesn't happen, right? Because why? Because it's not a fixed thing. It hasn't become something. It's constantly becoming. That's why. So the moment one of the causes change, then the effect changes. If it was a fixed thing, if it was something that is constant, if it became its own thing, then you won't be able to, then it shouldn't change. But the reason why it never stays the same is because it never became a phone, never became its own thing. It's always becoming. So in that scenario, let's go with purple because purple is, I think, it's slightly easier than the phone. So blue and red and water, that combination, that reaction, it looks like purple. Looks like purple, but is it really purple? No, because what's really there? Water, blue, and red. There's no purple there. It might look it, but looks can be deceiving. Yeah. So there's no such thing as purple. I mean, as in, there's no purple there. Purple is created in our mind. So, so the reality is, if someone loves purple, they're attached to something that exists in their mind, isn't it? They're attached to something that doesn't really exist in the real world. Reality is not purple. Reality is blue, red, and water. So, what the Buddha has told us to realize is that attachment is not something that is possible. Because in order to get attached, there has to be something to get attached to, isn't it? You can only cling on to something, can only hang on or cling, hang on or cling if something is there. If there's nothing there, you can't cling on to something, isn't it? You can't hang on to it. So something has to be there. But the Buddha has said that thing that you are hanging on to, that only exists in your mind, because the phone only exists in your mind. So the phoneness, so the effect always happens in the mind. It doesn't happen out there in the real world. So what we are attached to really then is not what exists in the real world or what really exists. What we attach to is something that doesn't even exist. So that's the thing. So he didn't say to let go. He said to realize that you weren't holding on to anything in the first place. Because someone might say, I love purple. I can't live without purple. But there is no purple, isn't it? There's blue, red, and water. So what? So if you can show them that, were you really attached to purple in the first place? No. Were you attached to a phone in the first place? No, because Lord Buddha hasn't told us to do things that are impossible. He didn't say to let go because it's impossible to let go. I mean, if you aren't, or if you weren't holding on to something, or if you aren't holding on to something, how can you let go? I mean, what is there to let go of? There's nothing to let go of. That's what he told us to realize. So the person who loves their phone, they are not attached to a phone, because it's impossible to get attached to something that doesn't exist. So if let's say there's someone who loves their phone, so what really exists are one of these things. What really exists are these things. So the screen is one of the things that's there. So does that person love the screen? No. They love the phone. Okay. But let's look at what's really there. They love the phone. Okay. But what's really there is the screen. So do they love the screen? No. Do they love the battery? No. Do they love the, I mean, if they were to say, okay, no, but I love the battery, but again, the same principle applies. Battery is also an effect. Okay. But we don't have to go too many levels down, because when we go down, the same thing will be proven. So let's just break it down one level. That will, all we want to do is to understand the concept. We don't want to be scientists, because they're trying to break things down as much as they can in it, because scientists are in an endeavor to find the base element or the basic building blocks of life. So that's why, because they have the idea that there are fixed things in the world. There must be something. Something must exist. Yes, they understand that. Okay, you can break. So far, everything we found, it can be broken down. But they think, because they have ignorance in their mind, they believe that, by ignorance, I don't mean uneducated. Obviously, they're educated, but they bear the wrong idea. They believe that, okay, something has to exist. Something has to there. That's something that is fixed, constant. So they are in search of that, but they won't find it. But so anyway, so we don't have to go down that path. Our concept is proven. So battery is not this. No one. So they're not attached to the battery. They're not attached to the screen. They're not attached to the cameras. They're not attached to the case. So they're attached to the phone, but there's no phone in the phone. So if you can prove that to this person, then they will realize that they weren't attached to a phone in the first place. Because if you look at it from a different perspective, phone is basically a collection of energy. That's what's real. That's what really exists there. So what we really like is the experience that we get from a phone. Okay, it might not necessarily be the phone itself. It might be the experience. But okay, so the experience of a phone. How do we experience something? Through our senses, isn't it? That is the only way that we can experience something. So the phone, or watching a video on it, or playing a game on it, or whatever you do on a phone, that experience, we experience it through our senses, and we know that what we perceive through our senses, this is something that is created in the mind. So the colors, so usually it's color, smell, and touch. If it's a phone that we're talking about. So because it taste, that would be weird, right? So it's the touch, the color, and sound. So we know that color is created in the mind, sound is created in the mind, and touch is also created in the mind. So phone is basically, it's completely a creation of the mind. It's a mental creation. That experience didn't come from the device. It didn't come from that lump of energy, because you can stimulate the brain and recreate the same experience. So you don't need the object, isn't it? Because someone could say, but you can't get that experience without the phone, or without that combination, or whatever is there, without that energy, without that bundle of energy, you can't get that experience. No, you can. If you stimulate the brain, you can create that experience. So you don't need the object. If you don't need the object, that means the experience didn't come from the object, isn't it? So let's say, I don't know, you love watching movies on your phone, or something. So that movie didn't come from the phone. That movie was created in your mind. So what you are really attached to are your mind, or are your, so that experience. But that experience, it has nothing to do with the object. So it didn't come from the object. So this is, so I know, like, there might be people who are obviously, most of you are advanced practitioners, or you've been listening to this stuff for a long time. So, but there are people here who are new, who are advanced, or by advanced I mean who's been listening to them for a long time. So they might, meaning that in terms of knowledge, you guys are probably at different levels. So this sermon is meant to cater for everyone. So this is a step-by-step journey. So initially we discussed the idea that happiness doesn't come from the object. Now what we're doing is trying to prove to ourselves that the object exists in the mind, not out there. And then we can take it another step further, but that will come maybe later on. Okay. So object that we perceive, it doesn't exist out there. It exists in the mind. Because from the color, sound, and touch, the combination of them is the phone. So, but you attach to a physical thing. But what you really attach to is a creation of your mind. So the phone is your imagination, really. So this is what you have to prove to yourself. So now take stuff that you attach to, and remove color, smell, taste, touch, remove all those things. Smell, remove all those things. And if you were to remove all those things, would you be attached to that now? Then would you be attached to the phone? If you were to remove all of those things, then you won't. Then there won't be a difference between the old phone and the new phone. They'll be exactly the same, isn't it? So this is the thing. Like, you got to prove these things to yourself. Prove these things to the mind. Prove to the mind that, because thing is, if if everything is an effect, how can you even compare the new phone with the old phone? Isn't it? Something has to be there in order for a comparison to happen, isn't it? To compare, there have to be at least two or more things. But an effect means it never became something. So the screen, the case, the cameras, the battery, they never became a form. Water, blue and red, they never became purple. So how can you compare purple with another color? How can you compare the new phone with the old phone? Because it's an effect. Nothing ever became. It's always becoming. So the concept of comparing cannot happen, because in reality, you can't compare things, because there are no things to compare. Listen, you can't compare effects. You can't compare purple with purple, because purple is it's not its own thing. It's an effect. And yeah, so that's the thing. You can't compare effects, because effects aren't really there, isn't it? So this is what I mean. So that's why when you understand this, you realize that everything is a complete joke. This reality that that we are living in, this is such a joke. That's why it's like a cartoon, really. So so you know that's why I say, listen to these talks every day if you can, and try to sort of condition your mind into thinking this way. Like prove these things to yourself. When you have some free time, I don't know, if you have a pen, see if there's a pen in the pen. Try to take things apart. If there's a pen there, in there, there, if there's a pen, if there really is a pen there, then it should be in there somewhere. So break it apart and see if you can find the thing that you believe to be there. Isn't it? Like the next time you hit McD's or something like that, when you're having a burger, see if there's a burger in the burger. You will find the two buns and a patty and then some salad, some sauce. That's what's really there. There's no burger there, isn't it? And the color that you see, it's in your mind. The taste that you experience, that is in your mind. But there's no such thing as taste of a burger. There's no burger taste, isn't it? Every taste that you experience are a combination of sweet, sour, salty, umami, and bitter. Because these are the tastes that the tongue can pick up, tongue can generate. So every taste you experience are a combination of those. There's no unique taste called burger taste. So taste of a burger. Uh, so that's why. So think about these things. Try, as in, prove these things to yourself. Because when it comes to food, it's not something we can avoid. So you have to have food. So when you have food, see, why do I want to have something different today? Why can't I have the same thing as yesterday? Because I want to experience the difference, but there's no actual difference, isn't it? If the taste is created in the mind, then both of those are the same, isn't it? So this is the thing. Because you compare this taste of the burger with what you had before, but you can't compare them because, like I was saying, taste of the burger is not his unique thing. It's not his own thing. That is simply a name that we give to a collection, to an effect. It's an effect. Whatever you ate yesterday, that taste, that is also an effect. Effect means it doesn't really exist, isn't it? Purple doesn't exist really. Phone as one thing, phone doesn't exist, isn't it? So how can you compare? How can you compare things that don't exist? That's the thing. I thought it's such a joke. It's like what's happened to us is that imagine that effect. Imagine purple has gained a consciousness. Imagine purple has become sentient, meaning able to have perceptions, have a conscience. So purple beginning to think that he exists, it exists. That's what's happened to us. Purple has begun to has has begun to think that it's it's its own thing. It's not. Because self, it's a combination of the body and the mind. It's an effect of a body and a mind. Oh, technically, I mean, self is an effect of the senses, isn't it? Self is an effect of the senses, but it's not its own thing, isn't it? So this idea of self, that is a complete fallacy. We can talk about that on another day, but you know what I mean? So let's try to understand that. Take a simple example and understand what an effect is, and then we can go from there. Because if you really realize that itself is the liberation. That's why realization is happiness, isn't it? Realization will set you free. Truth will set you free. That's the thing. So take a simple example. So I use purple and try to understand that everything is an effect, and with those lenses, look at the world. With those lenses, look at the world, and then things will become clearer. Okay, so to kind of conclude, attachment the Buddha has talked about is not attachment to objects or things. It's attachment to experience a difference, experience an entity. So now you could now, but that doesn't exist. Entities don't exist. So you don't have to let go of anything. What you have to do is to realize that you weren't holding on to anything in the first place. Is it? Because your child, your spouse, or whatever, your dog, what's really there is a clump of energy. It's an aggregation of energy. And energy is not unique to anyone, isn't it? Energy is in a dynamic equilibrium. So what you call your spouse or your child is color, is a combination of your senses, combination of the senses. So again, child, spouse, these are effects, isn't it? Effects only happen in a mind, doesn't exist out there. So again, you aren't holding on to anything. That's what you have to realize. A mind can't get attached to something. An effect can't get attached to anything, or effect can't get attached to another effect. It makes no sense. It's like, yeah, it's like, imagine there are two holograms, one of a man and one of a car. That man can't get into a car and drive it because these are both holograms, isn't it? So it's like that. Right. I'm happy to conclude the sermon. So, okay, so thank you very much. By the power of all the merits you've accumulated throughout this journey of samsara, may you all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana in this very life and in the era of the Gautama Supreme Buddha itself. Bless you.